items.
Okay, second item is disclosure of personal and prejudicial interest. Anyone? Members? Officers? No? Okay, then we go on to prohibition of whip votes, declaration party whips, which is the regular item on scrutiny. Then we come on to item 4 on the agenda, which is the previous minutes of the previous meeting, minutes of February. Everybody happy? I'll go through them. Page 1. Page 2. And page 3. Okay. Right, item 6 on the agenda is Audit Wales report cracks in the foundations building safety in Wales. I have been asked to defer this item because of an issue with personnel, because of the issues of personnel and how that would be reacted in the public domain. It is in the best interest of this council that we do not discuss this item until we have confirmation of the personnel issues. If that's okay with committee, then...
Can I ask, Chair, will these issues be resolved by the next meeting?
Well,
because I'm afraid that if we defer it now, we could be deferred for a year or more.
No, I have been assured that it cannot be deferred for a year.
How long are we talking deferring it?
We must have it at the next meeting of the panel.
So if these issues have not been resolved by then, are they going to ask us to defer us again?
No.
It just seems to me it's our job to scrutinise, and if there are issues in the department, we need to find out what they are.
I accept that, but as it is a personnel issue, and because we cannot discuss personnel issues in an open forum, I have decided that we will defer this till the next meeting.
But there's plenty of other things in this report which need to be discussed, and if that personnel issues are still there next month, then that's the same reason for deferring.
Well,
we could find ourselves not doing this at all.
No, that can't be the case, can it?
Well, it can't be the case.
No, it can't be the case. We've already been asked for this on a personnel issue. If they haven't sorted the personnel issue, that's the problem of the department.
So we definitely do this next meeting, irrespective of where the personnel.
We will have
because there's some very important issues in this report.
Exactly, and that's why it's being deferred for one set of meetings. Okay, Mark.
Thanks, Chris. I just want to confirm that this personnel issue, is it purely to do with the Welsh Audit Office?
No,
Staff?
it's to do with the department that we are going to scrutinise.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Linda?
Well, I was appalled when I'm reading this report, and it's not many reports I read all the way through. I'm not surprised at their findings. I was going to ask that, having had the report, that in the future we can keep this on our agenda and have building control here to start answering some of the questions and what they're doing in the future and how they're mitigating. There are just things, when you read comments like they're unable to discharge their responsibilities, I mean, we've got some serious issues, haven't we? So I hope in the future this is something that stays on our agenda.
It will definitely stay on the agenda, and as I said to Councillor Black, we will bring this back at the next meeting because obviously the issues will have to have been resolved by then. Okay. Anyone else? No. Okay, then the next item is item 7 on the agenda, which is the achievement of corporate priorities objective. Can I welcome Councillor Robert Francis Davis? Do you want to lead with this and then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Paul Roth.
Thank you, Chair. So what we've attempted to set out in the report is the broad sweep of the work areas and the achievements within the sort of the economic regeneration field in planning and city regeneration. Hopefully a lot of these areas will be familiar to you, but it reinforces hopefully the connection between the corporate plan for the authority, the administrator's manifesto commitments, and the way that resources that are becoming available are being wielded. The first one, I will go through them line by line, but I'll draw attention to some of the key ones. One of the most important ones for us is the Regional Economic Delivery Plan, which is a South West Wales document, which contains 3 missions, which are about supporting micro-enterprise, experience of place, and the green economy, which are fundamental to South West Wales. And all of those things are reflected in Swansea. And it's important, the bulk of the businesses in Wales are micro-enterprises. So that does place a colour on the type of interventions that we support, and particularly through UK Shared Prosperity Fund. We've listed there a series of the anchor schemes which house a number of strategic grant pots that are available to both business and community. And I think you'll be aware that the business grants in particular, there's a broad sweep of grants available there, from startup all the way up to growth, greening, and website development, which are about enabling the private sector on a sustainable basis. And hopefully the majority of these investments here are about creating a sustainable footing for the broader economy, which is something that hasn't happened previously. It's really important to be injecting funds but on a sustainable basis, and not just to the private sector, but also in large quantities to the third sector as well, across the variety of grant schemes there, as well as projects that came in through the open call that fit around those anchor schemes. Linked to that is the implementation of the Transforming Towns programme. So within the city centre and the larger district town centres, the availability of things like town centre loan, placemaking grant, and in the city centre often strategic grants, which are about unlocking new commercial space and the types of homes above shops and other uses, public realm works, etc., which is reflected in the rest of the list. The startup area is covered by Shared Prosperity Fund. The creating thousands of jobs commitment is directly linked to all of these interventions, because all of the packages that are happening, from the construction of premises to provision through Shared Prosperity Fund of revenue support to enable the private sector to, and the third sector to take advantage of these spaces, is interwoven. And as new funding streams become available, and that's part of my role on your behalf, is making sure that these funding streams align and are used effectively to fulfil these strategic objectives. And hopefully we're beginning to see the benefits of that coming through across the county. We've got the likes of the Palace Theatre and the heads of terms confirmed with Tramshed Tech, and which is really good news. And we'll be seeing that occupied from day one, which is important, and increasingly, certainly from where I sit in economic regeneration in England investment terms, where we get confidential inquiries. In the past, we haven't had space to offer. We have to say it's coming in 2 or 3 years' time. This year, all these things are landing, and we will be able to, when people come and ask for space, we'll be able to say it's there straight away. And the private sector are also responding to that demand around the city as well, using the tools that we've made available for them. Just looking through, any other major points to bring up. The Towie corridor is another important one, and particularly things like the installation of the first pontoon, and the fact that Penderyn are now firmly installed in the powerhouse building, which hopefully is going to be an award-winning scheme, and the further works that are planned through the Lower Swansea Valley Levelling Up programme. I think those are the key ones I wanted to draw attention to. That there's an awful lot there, and it does cut across the entire county. There's barely any part of the county that's not receiving support in some way through this programme, be it capital or revenue. I'm happy to take any questions on that.
Okay, any members got any questions? Councillor Buck?
Yeah, thank you. Can I just go to page 66 in terms of Debenhams? I'm just wondering what progress is being made on finding a tenant for that, and what's the ongoing cost to the authority in terms of business rates, etc., from Debenhams?
I can say that we've got a steering group established with Welsh governments looking at the options appraisals for the property in terms of the holding costs. We'd have to come back and we'll come back in writing on that. But I don't have that.
Sorry,
I haven't got that figure to hand on the holding costs. We'll write to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
But there's an active steering group meeting with Welsh government looking at several options and configurations for the premises as a matter of urgency.
Okay, so marking.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I could just confirm, as Paul says, there is active work ongoing to secure the reuse of that building. It's a complicated project, but we are seeking relevant support from Welsh Government and our partners in relation to reusing the building as quickly as we possibly can. And as Paul has indicated, we'll come back on the specifics around the holding cost, if that's okay, Chair.
Okay, I've got questions which I think need to wait till the private session, but can I just ask on Castle Square, do we have a timetable? I mean, you've entered into a pre-contract services agreement with Knights Brown. What does that agreement relate to? Is that are they going to be developing it for us, or? Yeah.
Yes, they're going to be working up the design over the coming months, with an aim to construction starting later on this year, and I think it should be about roughly 12 months.
12 months before we can start work, or?
No, once construction's commenced. So they are, we've got the PCSA has been signed.
Yeah.
So Knights Brown are working up the design with ourselves, and then we'll get into a situation then when they'll be instructed to start construction.
So when do you envisage construction starting?
That should be later on this year.
So you're looking at about 12 months to completion then?
After construction has started, that's right, yeah.
Oh, a 12-month construction period.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's great. Thanks. Ask me for now. So I've got stuff I want for the private session. Chair.
Councillor Linda James. Linda, we can't hear you.
Sorry, but there's two others before me. But I'll ask my question now. Could you explain more about the hotel opportunity, please, that's on page 70? Can't hear anything.
Yes, I can deal with that. We have an organisation called Colliers who are marketing the opportunity on our behalf. So that's where we are with that. They are going to be talking to potential hotel developers to take this forward.
But to develop where?
Oh, sorry, it's the site next to the arena.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Jeff Jones.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was going to mention the hotels as well. You know, thanks for the update with the hotel next to the arena. I think in one of the scrutiny meetings we had, they said that you know there's a dire need for hotels in Swansea. What's actually happening with the Dragon Hotel? Because that was shall we say, a prominent and important hotel, which seems to have fallen to, well, I don't know what it's being used for at the present time. Any news on that? What's happening there?
Paul Rowe.
So thank you, Chair. So we're working with the owners of the Dragon Hotel on the installation of green wall and new windows on the main facade of the building in order to improve the overall quality. That planning has been approved, and the work should be commencing shortly on that one. So the funding is in place through Transforming Towns to support the owner with that work.
Okay, right. And the other
there is strong interest in hotels for Swansea. The Colliers report stipulated that we'd need about 3 new hotels in Swansea. Right. There's quite a lot of interest. We've gone back out to the market for interest, and we'll keep you informed on that.
Right, thanks for that. That's the report I was actually referring to, and nothing seemed to be mentioned about the Dragon. I thought, you know, what a waste of a good hotel. So thanks for that. The other point I was going to raise with the civic centre, it seems as if, you know, reading from there, that it's not going to be demolished, and the plans are that it's going to be put to perhaps other uses. But it mentions about the 1 billion regeneration and 750 million strategic. Who's actually providing that money? Is it partly by Urban Splash and partly by the council, or who's actually contributing to that, and how far developed are we with regards to getting those monies?
Well, Urban Splash are working with other partners for development on the civic centre site. But there's 6 sites altogether that Urban Splash are looking at. We went out to the market. They were the joint venture partner that we decided to work with. They're working on the St Thomas site at present and looking at the Civic Centre site. Work on the Civic Centre site cannot commence until we vacate entirely that building. And that building cannot be vacated until we take up the different options within the stage 2 of the Copper Bay development. The Copper Bay development obviously being the arena and the multi-storey car park and the park above. And then we're looking at the new blocks that will be home to government offices, also working with the universities. There's a lot of interest for the development on Copper Bay North, and that until they are complete, then the Civic Centre site cannot be vacated. A lot of interest there on how that is then developed. Urban Splash are experts in their field in the United Kingdom on working with older buildings, and that the Civic Centre site is an older building that they feel is worthy of keeping and then developing of I think it's urban brutalization that they call the building, and you know, it's a big footprint that can be well developed. They will then work with all partners in seeking financial assistance, as well as working with different developers and financial institutions. And we will be presenting that to different investors when we go to the UK REEF.
Okay, thanks. Have we got some sort of time scale? I know it's perhaps a big ask in the next 5 years or 10 years, or
it's a continual progress on that. One part of it, we were down to the last 5 for Welsh Government wanted to put a contemporary art gallery, but that looks like that the Welsh Government have got a different way of looking at art and working with us on the Glynvivian Art Gallery, which is, you know, one of the top contemporary art galleries in Wales, and working with the Tate Modern, etc. And so until we knew what the intention from Welsh Government for the Contemporary Art Gallery Wales, that took one wing up in size. But now we know where we are with that. We can then proceed further in with Urban Splash in the design and how we go forward. But it's, you know, I would say it's going to be a 5-year program probably overall, because it is such a big site. But we want that to be prioritized as a site.
Okay, can we move on? Councillor David Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the question I've got is with the demise of that Buckingham Group, and it's on. Let me just get page 68. There it says all finished work by Wilmot Dixon is being completed as soon as possible. Can you sort of give an indication, like, will it be finished by Christmas, like, you know, because there's a lot of questions being asked, you know, what about that development. It's unfortunate that we've had to have a secondary firm come in, but can you sort of give more better information rather than as soon as possible on that one, please?
Mark, can you answer that one?
Thank you, Chair. Just to advise, there's some complexities that are behind this particular issue that the panel, I'm sure, will be aware of. There is a variety of surveys underway and actions are sitting behind that. So we will be able to, I would hope, confirm a timetable as soon as possible. what I won't do today is confirm exactly what that day is going to be, but just to provide assurances that there is a lot of work going on in the background from the team, and the contractor coming in that is Wilmot Dixon in relation to that. So won't confirm a timeline as of today, though. However.
Okay, David, they won't commit because they haven't had all the results and everything back yet.
Joke, thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Michael Locke.
Right. The question I've got is regarding the new hotel, is that envisaged to be a 3-star or 4-star? Or 5-star?
Obviously, this is out to the market, and the market, when people will be coming to us for us to decide on, we have always stated that we want it to be an upper end hotel, and so therefore we will wait to see what the market comes in. We envision it being a 4-star hotel on that side. And that is where, Collier's report said that is where the need was in Swansea. And that obviously placed between the leisure centre and the arena will be an ideal hotel for conferences that can take part in the arena, and a service hotel to that as well. So, and linked in between the two. But that is where we are waiting for the interest, and we know there's interest out there for the further discussions. But we want it to be a good quality, higher end 4-star hotel.
I was under the impression, what we've been told over the last couple of years, that there was going to be intervention by the Welsh Tourist Board to give us a sum of money to move us from a probably 3-star to a 4-star hotel. So that gap, that bridging gap, that would potentially could happen, would be funded by the Welsh Tourist Board or the Welsh Government, effectively. Have they still got that, or is that been that hasn't happened or isn't going to happen?
Until we get the applications in, we don't know what gap funding might be. But if there is gap funding, we've been assured that the money will be able to be found for what that is. But again, that would be commercially confidential at this moment in time until people respond to the contracts that would be out there. So, but yes, there could well be that need.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Will Thomas.
Thanks, Chair. I have to say, I used to like the table that Hugh used to present on the screen to keep an eye on all the projects and stuff. I thought that was helpful. So I don't know if we can maybe bring that back longer term. Just on one of the points of where are we? Commitment to investing in the towns and villages. Just wondering what that looks like. So obviously we got internal capacity issues, I guess, with the our architects or designers. What's been looked at, and what the timeframes are on those sort of projects.
Oh.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So that there's a broad programme across the key district centres where we're developing a placemaking plan for each of those centres, which exists in draft form for all of the centres, as well as the city centre itself. The main funding levers are available in those places now through Transforming Towns, through the Town Centre Loan and the Placemaking Grant, as well as the various investments that have gone into Economic Recovery Fund, which is also being continued through Shared Prosperity Fund. Notwithstanding that there is a capacity issue with design, we're working through those schemes as quickly as we can and programming them in as we go. In terms of the broad Transforming Towns picture is pretty consistent going forward, and we're working through all of them, I guess, as quickly as we can. But obviously, every single scheme is large in its own right, from the very smallest scheme up to the bigger ones. They take the time they take and getting people on site, and that's also affected by mobilising contractors in the private sector as well, because there's so much going on. there's huge competition for resources generally. It's a big picture, but reassure that everything is being looked at, everything is on the list, and as new resources through the likes of Shared Prosperity Fund come through, we're adding resources in to help supplement that. So, for example, the Transforming County Anchor has resources within it which will help us accelerate some of the placemaking plan work, which I know we're working on with yourself, Councillor Thomas, as well as some capital funds to help do further schemes. So hopefully it's coming forward on all fronts. I know everybody would prefer it to be quicker, but we're trying.
Could I just follow up, Chair? And how many district centres are being looked at? And I'm guessing that this all ties together with active travel and everything else, and the teams are all collaborating.
Absolutely. So there's the 7 principal district centres outside of the city centre in terms of Welsh Government's definitions. And yes, the requirement of the place plan is that the placemaking plan is that all factors affecting those town centres are considered. That does include active travel, the permeability of these spaces, where there's appropriate greening. That has to be balanced with affordability based on the level of grant resources available to work on these things. But it has to be a partnership approach in each place, and that the team will be reaching out to all the district centres over the coming weeks and months to progress those plans. And in some cases, schemes are already progressing on particular buildings. And if there are particular properties that people want to look at, we can certainly look at those in tandem with the development. The development of the placemaking plans doesn't prevent work taking place. So we're happy to have those dialogues.
Thank you. Well, Councillor Linda James.
Can I just go back to the hotel topic, please? Can somebody tell me what happened to the Dolphin Hotel? It was right in the centre of the city.
Well, it's privately owned, and we are looking at the hotels. You know, where
I don't think it's open. It never looks open when I go past.
Well, I've got this in the report, so I can't give any further information.
I think, to be fair to the officers, Linda, I think we asked them to find out and come back to us. We put it in the letter because I don't think, looking at them, but yeah, I have a feeling they haven't got a clue what's happened to it. So I think probably better.
But there has been dialogue with the hotel. I know they face particular difficulties, but I'll undertake to check back on those conversations.
They'll find out and get back.
Okay.
Councillor Mike White.
Thank you, Chair. It's in relation to page 70, the Penderyn. Are you able to advise us how many people have been given employment at this venue? And also, are you able to know as to how many visitors have visited this attraction since its opening in 2023? Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
In terms of employment, it's approximately 15 full-time equivalent posts have been created in line with the original aspiration, and there's further recruitment planned by Penderyn over the coming months for the summer season. The visitor numbers I don't have, but I will write to you with that.
We'll have to put that in the letter, Mike, about the visitor numbers, because Paul doesn't have that at hand. Okay.
Yes. Okay. That's fine. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Paul.
Okay. Councillor Wendy Fitzgerald. Oh, Matt Willis.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm looking at page 66, and it says help create thousands of new jobs for the people of Swansea, aiming to provide high quality and secure employment. And then it goes on in the next column to talk about startup and business development improvement grants, etc. I'm just wondering, where are all these figures kept? If I recall, the LDP was going to create, and all the housing need was based on the fact that we were going to get 14,700 new jobs in Swansea, net jobs, so I was given to understand, by 2025. Now, are these additional new jobs? Are they part of the LDP, or where will we have records kept of are net gaining new jobs? This is something I've never really been very clear about. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Randy. Paul?
I'll make a start and I'll let Sir Francis Davis pick up. So in terms of the explanatory text, which refers to Shared Prosperity Fund, all of those are new jobs created with grant support. So whether that's the dozens of startup grant, pre-start grants that are being supported through the programme, as well as the particular one where there are jobs being created as the growth grant, where the condition of receiving that grant in return for contribution towards equipment, etc., is creation of a number of posts. So there are some smaller ones, but there are also some larger ones coming through, maybe not in the thousands category through this programme, but certainly in the dozens and more. But as well as that, I guess there's the thing of creating the space where investors can come in, and that in itself will generate jobs as well, which will be new posts. The 2025 date, I'm not sure. But certainly through the SPF programme, they are new jobs being created. So we're collecting that data in my team, and we'll be sharing that in the near future.
And when the local development plan was signed off, it was at a moment in time where the economy was in a different place. I think one Liz Truss didn't help with the construction industry and house building. People trying to get mortgages, mortgages have spiraled during the last few years to what they were. And so therefore, that obviously has affected the housing market. And that is why there are so many people on housing waiting lists, etc. And that there is a need, but people do need to be able to get mortgages as well. So it's aspirational, the local development plan is continually evolving. But as regards the jobs being created, I am weekly signing off the Shared Prosperity Fund grants, where there are, in each grant, an index of how many jobs will be created. And it might be 5 in one, just 1 in another. There could be 20 in another. And they all add up. And the tens make the hundreds, and hundreds make the thousands. So I'd like to congratulate Paul Ralph for the work his department is doing, is getting, and working on the Shared Prosperity Fund, the Levelling Up Fund that is available. A lot of this is being created now, but these jobs will, when they're completed. But it's not the jobs when the plans are completed. It's the jobs created in the building industry while making the establishments ready for the long-term jobs. But the construction industry in our area, and we can tell by the amount of people applying for contracts, it's harder to get people to apply because the amount of work that's being developed within the city of Swansea at this moment. Nobody can fail to have seen the amount of cranes up in our area. A lot of construction jobs are being carried out, a lot of redevelopment within our city centre, in Oxford Street, around Castle Square. We've seen Wine Street and High Street all being redeveloped, and other areas like the Palace Theatre. 150 jobs will be created in the Palace Theatre when Tramshed Tech take up occupation. They all add up, and so where I point to get that exact figure, I can't do that, but it's the policies that we have are creating these jobs.
Andy? You want to come back?
No, thank you, Chair. We'll leave it at that for the time being. Otherwise, I could go on forever and you wouldn't want that, would you?
I don't think so, Andy, but I do know what you mean. Okay, anyone else? Councillor Black.
If it helps, Linda, the TripAdvisor reviews for the Dolphin Hotel as late as last month, so it is clearly open.
Okay. I've got a couple of things to ask about. Space for companies. I have to say, I find that statement quite alarming. We have lost out on opportunities in Wales, and I'm thinking of one, and that's one that I brought up with not just your predecessors, but with Mr. Holmes, Phil Holmes, and that was the fact that when there was an advert put by a company that wished to build a bottling plant, the manufacturing of glass bottles. And it went up to past Tongan and Lice, up that area. And when I asked the question, I was told we didn't have enough room. Balindra was one of the biggest sites in Wales, a strategic site, a site that was dedicated by the Welsh Government for development. And more than 500 acres of it was taken off to put to housing. So we lost out on the fact that that site wasn't big enough for that particular plant. And that's the bit that concerns me when you've made the statement, space for companies. What sort of spaces are we talking about? Are we talking about, you know, as you said in your opening remarks, Paul, that 95% of the, or 50%, whatever the percentage was, of jobs in Wales are in medium and small companies. Now, this city has lost out on that particular enterprise, which was creating hundreds of jobs. And that's the problem I think a lot of people have. You answered a question to Councillor Fitzgerald about the creating of thousands of jobs, and Councillor Robert Francis Davies mentioned the fact that he's signing off maybe 2, 5, 10, 50 jobs. The problem is we have no manufacturing industry or no growth in the manufacturing industry, which would take up a huge amount of employment. But what we do have are small businesses which are linked in many cases to the tourist industry. And the one thing I would ask is, if we are creating spaces for companies, I would like to know what spaces they are and where they are. The other thing I think is really important, and that is the River Towy corridor. Now, we all know that since the pandemic, people want to live by water and want to have access to you know, the environment and a pleasing environment as well. So that means either by in the countryside or the water or by water. The Towy corridor has been plagued by TAN 15, and I mean plagued. We had numerous developments up around the Morrison area, which Councillor Robert Francis represents, and in Llansamlet. And I'll go back to the fact that we had plans to build a hotel close to the M4, right on the junction in Annisvorgan. But unfortunately, it was covered by TAN 15, although we had sacrificial land there for the flooding of the valley. And I'm wondering, we were going back to look at what consequences we could mitigate for the TAN 15 because of the issues that it surrounded. And I'm wondering, are we addressing those problems? Because those problems, the land in that area, the valuation on that land could triple overnight if it was available for building. And finally, there is the idea of Debenhams, and I will ask you to come forward with a report on it, because there is a huge amount of interest by not just the public, by city centre traders as well, about the future of a massive store, which is, you know, sit in the quadrant. So on those three issues, we will write to you, and I will also write to you about grants for jobs. Now, when the WDA, that organisation, was destroyed by the Welsh Government, when the WDA was set up, one of the complaints that was made about it was the fact that it was building factories or building offices or building warehouses, etc., giving grants to company. Once the grants run out, the jobs would go. And yet we are now having grants again for jobs, and how sustainable they are. And I think those are the issues, those 4 issues. If you could come back to us, obviously don't expect answers today, but I do think these are the things that we need to ask about, and about how the regeneration of the city is going, and how we are actually developing it. Thank you.
Data anyway. In terms of the space being created, So principally, I was thinking of the fact that we've had virtually no quality office space available in the city centre, and that is all coming online this year. In terms of industrial space, quite a number of the grants that we're supporting are actually cutting edge manufacturing and smaller scale maybe, but part of the programme is the property development fund, which would be looking at, I think, funding 4 sites, which will be creating manufacturing space around the county. So we'll be able to provide more details of those shortly, and they'll certainly be accommodating jobs. In terms of the, well, obviously we'll come back separately on Debenhams. In terms of the grants for jobs, so the basis that we're awarding the grants is it has to be on a sustainable basis. We're not funding people's revenue costs. It has to be on the basis that they are, for example, with the growth grant, they're creating a new service which requires certain equipment, and on the basis of that new service they're offering, that's the basis they sustain the job. And we will be going back to them after 6 months and 12 months to check that those jobs are still there, and it's calculated on a particular basis depending on the amount of equipment they're investing in. Similarly with the startup grants, every application is scrutinised for the cash flow. They get challenged from Business Wales advisors and ourselves, working with other partners like Business in Focus. So there's appropriate challenge all the way through. And I mean, not every business will succeed, but they're given the best opportunity. They have to have a robust business plan. They have to have a robust cash flow, even for the smallest ones, to make sure that they know what they're doing and that they're investing wisely. So hopefully that is creating a sustainable. We've designed it deliberately that way. It's admittedly maybe it's not as big as we'd like it to be, and if more funding was available, obviously we will try and go for it and try to lever more into this. But it's definitely not throwing money at unsustainable activities on a just funding salaries type basis. That's not what it's about. And I'm, happy to provide more detail on that. Hope that helps.
Yeah, I think we would like a bit more detail on that, because it is, if you think of the model the WDA had, it's quite similar. And I can remember 2 very, very large projects that they did, not in this part of the world, admittedly, but they based that on their cash flow, on the companies that were based on what they did. And yet, after about 5 years, or a bit longer than that perhaps, those companies finished. And the jobs went back to wherever those companies were. And I just think of what happened to Bosch. Bosch was a fantastic employer in the Llantrysted area. Numerous jobs, very good jobs, well-paid jobs. And all of a sudden, because of investment issues, they disappeared. And that's the type of thing I think we need to think about in this area, because we need to have sustainable jobs that do create, wealth. And I'm not saying that holiday and tourist destinations don't, but they generally speaking tend to be seasonal. So I think we need to have further investigation and further scrutiny of what we're doing with that.
Just one thing to add, jog my memory. So in terms of quite a number of the grants or the small businesses we're supporting are actually coming from sectors coming out of the universities, out of higher education and further education. So as well as we have got people transitioning out of inactivity actually as well. So there's quite a number of case studies coming through shortly, which we'll be able to share with you, which show, that this is, we're capitalising on what Swansea's got, particularly because it's really important that we bridge all the expertise of the university with tangible outputs in the economy, which is often these micro businesses, plus the flotilla of micro businesses are, we think of COVID and the like, and that has affected our mindset, certainly as officers, that providing that resilience in the communities as well. People that are working in their own community, that's really powerful. And it's and some people are taking up space in the high street as well, taking up vacant units that we're preparing through transforming towns. So I will go on, but in principle, yeah, we'll come back to you with some more detail on that.
Yeah. We talk about TAN 15, and I know the leader has probably been at the forefront of it in Wales of objecting to TAN 15 and the effects that TAN 15 will have on the entire South Wales region right the way through. We are where we are as a city because we are on the sea. We have a river coming down, the River Tower, as you say, where the industry grew up around, and the population grew up around the new ports, the the Cardiff, the Barry, the Swansea, because of opposition on the sea. So it's not new that, you know, the sea coming in and the tide changing. That what we need to do is have sustainable development and create the jobs. We have stated quite clearly that we want to create the jobs within our city centre, get more people living and working back in the city centre. And when you look at, you know, the work that's been carried on, bringing people that we will now bring in out of the civic centre back into the city centre, working with the universities, working with government departments coming in there. And that is what we're trying to do. When I see the private sector also investing, you know, got Cartes have bought Princess House, and they've got 100% occupancy in Princess House. They have developed 40,000 square feet of grade A office by Salubrious Passage there alongside the Cross Keys. That is ready for occupation. They've also taken up the building where McDonald's is to put 30-odd private apartments above where McDonald's and buildings there, looking out at Castle Square. People like Peter Loosemore, who has redeveloped Orchard House and big swathes of Oxford Street, and Cartes again are doing from H. Samuel up to Burton's, Oxford Street there, refurbishing the retail shops and getting accommodation above the shops. The Swansea.com company, Martin Morgan, they bought the old Top Shop and they're redeveloping that. There's a lot of strong interest in the private sector in Swansea, following the council's lead in reinvesting in Swansea and developing. The Albert Hall, that will be opening in a couple of months' time, which will bring a lot of jobs created there, along with the work done by Coastal in High Street and the Palace Theatre. So there's not much of the city centre that work isn't going on, developing jobs within that city centre. Now, everybody's worried about Debenhams. Whatever city you're in the United Kingdom, Debenhams are closed, you know, where Debenhams were. So it's not unique to Swansea. That you wouldn't believe it if you read the Wales Online or Swansea Online, you know, that those people that don't even bother to invest in Swansea themselves and don't even print the paper in Wales. But there we are. What we need is actually, you know, as a team Swansea is working together and pulling together. And we've got a very good team Swansea now, where the private sector, working with the local authority, working with the universities. I don't want to see students coming to Swansea, getting their education and going back out. I want them to be a place that they can find opportunities and find opportunities to work. We'll be going on later on to 71, 72 of the Kingsway, which is 116,000 square feet, but we know which we'll have job creations there. The biophilic next door is leading the way in the country with the type of development that is going. Huge amount of development going on in Swansea. Debenhams is important to the quadrant. The quadrant is important to Swansea. We are looking at working with, and the quadrant's been up for sale. There's people buying the quadrant. We will be working with them to ensure that we have an approach that we can work together to get the quadrant and Debenhams having a retail offer that the people of Swansea will be proud of. We just don't want to put anybody in there. What we need is quality development that makes Swansea a destination. And you're right about the river, and that is why Urban Splash are working on the St Thomas site now, of working with a preferred partner to have housing looking at the river. We turned our back on the river far too much in the past because it wasn't the cleanest river, and it's now a clean river. We have salmon back in the river. And I think that the area up around the Harvard Mover is an award-winning redevelopment, you know, and our contribution to preserving our heritage, I think, is second to none in the United Kingdom. But we can hark back to perhaps the days of the of the enterprise zone where Welsh development agencies were attracting money. Welsh development agencies gone. I think the biggest thing that affected us down here, and I'm sure you and Peter would agree, is Brexit did not help. If you look at a place like Swindon, where Honda pulled out of Swindon, thousands of jobs in Swindon, they've all gone abroad. You know, that is all Brexit related. You asked what happened to Bosch. Well, probably similar reasons, I would think. So we have been reliant on, you know, being part of Europe. I was as upset as anybody probably to see Brexit happen. But where we are is where we are. We now got to do the best that we can to get jobs back. And I think the industries coming out of the university, the smarter jobs, you know, and using smart technology in the future. And I'm confident that the policies we got now will create jobs in our area.
Right, thank you for that, Councillor Davis. But as you say, there's lots of development in the city centre, but they are flats, most of them, and some retail, and that's to be welcomed anyway. Can we now move on to the next item on the agenda, unless there's any members or officers want to say anything more? No. The next item is the regeneration project update on 7172 the Kingsway. I propose, you know, we need to have this discussion in public, but then we'll going into excluding the public for some financial reports as well and confidential issues. So who's going to take this? Paul, is it? Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to update the working group on the 71 to 72 Kingsway project. I'm assuming you've all read the report, so I won't go into it word for word, but obviously we acquired the former Oceana building back in 2015. It fitted in with the aspirations under the scarf to create an office hub in this part of the city centre. And we successfully received 13.7 million in city deal funding in order to take the project forward. The key objective is to stimulate employment, economic growth and footfall in the city centre and surrounding areas. We had a design team appointed, including Architecture 00, who'd done buildings such as this in the past, and then we got cabinet approval in 2021 to appoint Weeks as the contractors. As Councillor Francis Davis just said, it's 115,000 square foot of Grade A office accommodation, as well as retail space and event space. There's meeting and communal spaces as well. I mean, it really is quite an exciting building, and it is coming along. In addition to the building itself, there's a public realm area in the former Picton Yard, and there'll be pedestrian links, particularly north and south, connecting to Oxford Street. It'll be a wired score platinum certification for digital connectivity and aiming for BREEAM excellent for sustainable build. The actual construction and implementation of the Kingsway scheme has encouraged acquisition and development of a series of properties on the Kingsway itself. Transforming Towns funding has been made available, and obviously it's also helped, I think, towards the innovative biophilic building next door. Moving on to section 3, where we're talking about programme status and next steps. Practical completion was programmed for the end of March, which was when Bouygues was due to hand over the building to Swansea Council. And whilst that is formally still the position, I do need to provide a verbal update to you to say that Bouygues have been in contact with council officers to say that this is likely to run over for a couple of weeks, primarily for testing and for commissioning purposes. Following that, once we get practical completion, there'll be fitting out of the landlord and tenant spaces, mobilisation of the building with the managing agent we've appointed, and of course there's ongoing formal marketing of the building, and that will continue until it's fully let. We are in detailed discussions with a flex operator for a considerable amount of space, approximately 20,000 square foot NIA, and there are also ongoing discussion with potential tenants for accommodation on the upper floors. So I think that's probably everything from me for the moment, and if that's okay.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? Councillor Black?
Yeah, just coming back to that section 3, the fact that you've got this flex operator for the ground, first floor and parts of ground and basement levels, and you're discussing on the upper floors. Are you anticipating this will now be fully let?
Yes, I'm anticipating it will be fully let, but not necessarily upon practical completion,
Okay, so
but within a reasonable timescale.
okay, and you say the original budget for delivering this project was 41.6 million, which implies that maybe it's gone over that. Is that the case, or do we need to wait for camera to say that?
Deal with that in the closed session, I think.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jeff Jones?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. You know, I don't think this is in closed session. It's just clarification, actually. You know, 1.2, I know it's been mentioned about the city deal funding. You know, from memory, I must admit, I was involved in the regional city deal scheme. It was equating to Swansea, you know, the total city deal for the arena and the Kingsway, about 1.5 million per annum over 15 years, which works out at about 23 million pounds. I know there was a little bit of accelerated fundings, especially perhaps for the marina. But there's a figure here of 13.7 million, and there was a response to Councillor Stuart Rice's question to Council with the arena that they had actually had, I think it was 17 or 18 million. Now it actually comes to 31 million. What was the total city deal funding? I know Ben Smith is not actually here at the present time, but, you know, was it 23 million? Have we had more than we should have? Or what exactly was the total city deal funding for the two, well, for the you know, the scheme itself?
I'm afraid I don't have that detailed information available at the moment, but if we can do a written response, please.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Will Thomas?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, really exciting scheme for Swansea. Obviously, I've brought this up a few times. One of the things I'm worried about is the footfall for Picton Arcade. Obviously, once this is established, there was talk when we first started looking at this project of sort of coming into Picton Arcade halfway up. I'm just wondering if there's any progress on that, or if that is part of the scheme at all, or it's still being looked at, or if it's been shelved. Thanks.
Yes, that is still being considered, and it is moving forward. We're looking at funding. We're looking at the logistics of creating that connection from east to west, which will complement the north to south link. So yes, that is ongoing, but I can't provide any firm indication at the moment, I'm afraid.
Okay, great. Thanks. I think it's you know, very important for those traders in there. So that's good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, there is going to be hopefully permeability from the yard behind 71, 72 going in and into the middle of the Picton Arcade. There are ongoing talks, I know, with the owners, the leaseholders of properties, so that they can go through into that. But it's getting a price that is agreeable to ourselves and the leaseholder, and making sure that the valuations marry up.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Chris Evans?
Hi, thanks. With all the active travel schemes looking to move ahead in this city, is there going to be sufficient or ample bicycle storage that's safe, secure and dry within the building?
Yes, there is, and there's a number of electric charging points as well for bicycles within the building, so that has been catered for.
Okay, any other members? No. I wonder, we've now created this grade A office space, and we've already been told that there's other office space being created in the city centre. Given the dire warnings that have been given out in London and other metropolitan areas and across the globe as well about the effects of the empty office syndrome, the fact that people aren't going into offices. First of all, how many new office developments are coming online? I think that's an important issue for us all to understand. The Councillor Robert Francis Davis has already pointed out that there's a private developer has done the one in Princess Way, I think it is, and there's other developments. So with the fact that when we started this project, there was no grade A or very limited grade A office space, now there is more coming online, and also the fact that this empty office syndrome has laid its head in London, Manchester, Birmingham, and other parts of the UK. Also, the fact that we are being told by the press that in America this has become quite critical about the way in which offices and our city centres work that are commercially based. So that's the first thing. And you said about timescales. Do we have any accurate timescales, or is it a possibility that we just don't know until such time as we've done the due diligence on the building itself when we will be able to see it full occupied?
Chair, in terms of the office space availability in the city centre, we're starting from a point of virtually zero. And yes, the market is changing, and the requests that we're getting are not as time has gone on, the scale reduces, but people do still want space. There is still blended working. So on the basis that we're starting from a low base of quality office space, you know, we haven't been able to offer anything. So having that available, plus there's several, I would say, developments of differing size. So you have the Princess Quarter with Cartier, Palace Theatre is the size it is. You've got the first floor of Orchard House on the Kingsway Circle. You've got the upper floors of 85 Kingsway with Coastal, for example. But they're all different shapes and sizes, and they all meet different needs, and they're all reconfigurable. So that's the critical thing, is that they're not necessarily monolithic edifices as you would see in the skyscrapers of New York. This is tailorable space that's been built with this evolving picture in mind as it's been going along. So because it's all reconfigurable, plus you've got very different spaces. So the Palace Theatre is a historic building with historic surrounds. 71-72 is brand new, completely sparkling, brand new facility. So you've got a choice of spaces, which I think is important to have for the types of inquiries we're getting, as well as these companies that we're now investing in through SPF, for example. A number of them are indicating that they want to take space in these places. You know, they're going to want to access the open access space in 71-72 and the Palace. And I mean, Tramshed are already indicating that they're looking at other properties because they're going to need more space as these small companies expand, as well as possibly the larger inquiries that come in.
Yeah, and the interest, because we got this grade A office accommodation, we got interest from people that we weren't able to reach out and actually offer the best space. A lot of interest now because we got the quality grade A office establishments here. But there's also interest in people moving out from the major cities as well because of the cost of places like being in London or Manchester or even Cardiff. We're attracting higher rents now as well in Swansea, because it is the quality smart office in the smart city that people are looking for. And they may not be taking perhaps somebody coming along and wanting 40,000 square feet at a time. They might be wanting 20 or 25,000 square feet. But it is important, and not everybody wants to sit in a home on their own with Johnny no friends and just working. You know, you need to work in a team environment to get the best out of people. And especially in the newer technologies where, you know, they are blue sky thinking, where they all work together and they are innovated by other people working with other people. And so it is important that we have the right quality accommodation, with the best technology available and the best speeds of Wi-Fi that are needed in today's modern world. There will still be people working from home, hybrid working, but the need is still going to be there for people's head offices to work together. And what we need to do is attract head offices into Swansea so that they grow and they grow in Swansea.
Okay, Councillor Mike White.
Chair, I would imagine, because we want to bring all, these jobs and investment into Swansea, as part of revitalising the city centre and places to come, surely our team would be marketing of what we've got to offer on our doorstep as well. Not just to sort of come and live here, but enjoy the facilities that we actually got on our own doorstep, down on the Gower and also around the bay. So I imagine that would be part of the selling point that our teams are doing. Are you able to confirm this?
I would have thought so. Yes. Anyone?
Yeah, we're actively looking at that at the moment. So we've investment post in my team has just gone online, and we're working closely with Councillor Francis Davis on a Team Swansea approach behind the scenes. One thing I have to say is that often these inquiries are confidential, and the agent of the company that wants to come in, everything has to be discussed confidentially. So unfortunately, it's an area of work. There's an awful lot goes on, and it's not allowed to be discussed openly because it's confidential. But be assured, there are several inquiries a year of scale. And to date, as I said earlier, we're moving from the point now this year where instead of offering them a picture of a building, we can say you can move in later in the year. So that's what they're asking for. When they come, they want an answer straight away, as you referred to earlier, Councillor Holly. So it's important we've got that supply coming now, and hopefully that will stimulate further demand.
And I think that's a very important point that Paul Ralph was making there, is that we can show all the pictures in the world, artists' impressions, but people actually want to see the building. I think there's far more interest now because people can see, well, we're not just talking pretty pictures, but what we've shown is actually being built and being seen. And people are now taking it seriously. That Swansea is a city that if they say they're going to do something, it gets done. And I think the quality of life for people that, if they want to bring a head office, is extremely important. Is there good sport? Are there good universities? Is there a good education for their children? What is the leisure activities like, and we're blessed, I think, when we look at the Gower Coast, we look at the bay around our city, and we look at the culture of our area. We got a lot to offer people. And the amount of people that I talk to have come from other parts of the world, and they say, why you kept this such a secret? If only we could be reaching out much further all the time. And and we don't stop, but we are limited to what we can spend on tourism, etc., on advertising. But I think people are now seeing. There was a report in the Metro. I don't know if it was repeated by Wales Online, but on the Metro, where they turned around and said that the best place to come now for people buying house prices and for a quality of life and where to live is Swansea. We were #1 in the UK. Now, the Metro seemed to put that out. And I think that's what I'm looking for, the Team Swansea approach, is that everybody keeps saying that as well. So it'd be great if our media can become part of that as well.
Okay, Mike. I think one of the things that I can remember is actually going to London and seeing photographs of Rossilli and the Gower Coast, and come to Swansea, and that was advertised for many years. I think the quality of life in Swansea is very good. The only problem we have was electrification, which is not well out of our hands, and the concept about there's no electricity in Swansea because the trains can't run here. I think that was a huge kick in the teeth, that was. And the other thing then, the one which really does upset anybody, when you listen to people like Owens Transport, and they say the two biggest blockages to expansion in Wales are the Brynglas tunnels and the A48 or A47, whatever it is in North Wales. So I think there's those those issues, but the quality of life in Swansea is probably as good, if not better than, as Councillor Thomas Davis said, it's probably as good, if not better than anywhere else in the UK. Okay, is there anyone else? If not, then can we move on to item 9, which is the work plan? Now, the work plan will be altered because we will be bringing in on the next meeting the Audit Wales report. So the work plan will alter, and we'll send that out as soon as we can confirm. We will, as soon as that can be altered, it'll be sent out. Item 10 are the letters.
Can I ask, Chair, the deadline for this letter was the 5th of March. Have we actually had a response to it?
I have had confirmation a response is going to be received in the next few days. I think, yeah, it's waiting for the leader to sign up.
Okay, thanks.
So that's the letters. Item 11 is the exclusion of the public. Sorry, Richard. A55. I knew something.